Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And I was reflecting about how I'm kind of lucky and glad that I have had the motherly, matronly figures in my life that I have had, because they really helped me understand not only myself and who I am, but also who Jesus is. See, at one point, I remember being like super confused about Jesus, and I just thought that Christ was his last name. Because I always heard Jesus Christ, and I have my name. I got two names, so that makes sense that Christ is his last name. And the leaders of the church, and my mom and my aunt and my grandmothers and everything, they say, no, sweetie, that's not how it goes. And explain that Christ is a title, and then you learn more and more into that as you get older, and it underlies this sort of central question. This question about how we receive the good news and what we do with it. You see, our text this morning from the gospel starts with that question, that very simple question. Who is this Jesus guy? Now, in our text this morning in the Gospel of John, Jesus is in the temple, in the portico of Solomon, during the festival of the dedication, which is Hanukkah, which is really interesting. Because if you know historically what that means and what the people ask of Jesus, it's like this beautiful sort of poetic piece. Because Hanukkah was, that's when we remember the Maccabees and keeping the oil burning so that the temple would not be defiled. Now, they ask Jesus plainly, they say, tell us if you're the Messiah. And those two things go hand in hand, see, because the Messiah, well, that's going to be the guy, right? That's like one of the most cosmically important and significant people, especially in the culture at that time. The Messiah would have worked to make sure that nothing like that the Maccabees had to go through, that would not happen again. To set up their own personal state for the Jewish people, by the Jewish people. See, that was the thought, that Messiah was a very political figure. And so it makes sense that these people gather around Jesus, because at this point, Jesus is doing what? He's walking around, and then there's miracles, and he's teaching, and people are taking note of him. The fact that people are taking note of him, they're thinking, okay, who is this guy? What is he about? What is he doing? Is he the guy? There's the weirdo in the wilderness saying he's the guy, but he himself has not said it. So they ask him themselves. They say, tell us plainly if you're the Messiah. The suspense is killing us. I get that. I hate being held in suspense. I am the worst person when I get a gift for someone, because I always do it too early, and then I wind up wanting to tell them about it, like right then and there. So it's very hard for me to keep surprises because I want that suspense. Like, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. And for these people, asking Jesus, saying, are you the Messiah? Like, we're waiting on you. Like, you're the one we've been waiting on. Like, if you're the Messiah, that's great. Like, everything's going according to plan. And it's wonderful. And it's good. And it's great. And so it makes sense. They're like, just tell us if you're the guy. And Jesus tells them, but doesn't. What he says to them is, I have told you. Well, time out just for a second here, because no, he really hasn't, In fact, there's a lot of times in the Gospels where Jesus does something great and is like, don't tell anybody what you just saw. He's like, it's not time for them to know about that yet. And in fact, there's this interesting little time where, Jesus raised a dead girl to life, but before he did that, he's like, everyone leave the room. And so they all leave the room, and he does it, and everyone's happy and excited. But why have them leave the room? Why not just say, oh, yeah, I'll do that right here, like that. Why not just tell the people that he's the Messiah? Like, clearly he is. Because if anyone has been paying attention, you would know. You can't look at Jesus and just be like, he seems like a pretty nice guy, and that's the end of it. Yes, Jesus was a very nice guy, and I think almost everybody on the earth can agree with that statement, that Jesus was a very nice person. That's not the question that divides people, though. The question that divides people is he the Messiah? The same question that the Jewish people asked Jesus in the text this morning. And the answer is, as Jesus says, I done told you already, even though he didn't. You see, instead of just coming outright and telling them, yes, I'm the Messiah, it's me, I'm the one you've been waiting for, he tells them, the works I do in my Father's name testify to me. And he leaves it at that. He never once says, in this case, I'm the Messiah. And in fact, what he does is he goes on to drop huge, massive theological bombs that shift the entire theology of the people. Because he ends the passage by saying, the Father and I are one. Doesn't say that he's just the Messiah. He says he is one with the Father. That's like asking for just like a little Lunchable sandwich and getting like a massive Dagwood sandwich instead. Because what he's saying is, I'm so much more than what you think I am. But he doesn't even say that. And I wonder, why doesn't he just come out and say it? Because, surely that would make things a lot easier, right? If he would say, okay, guys, I just want you to know, I know you've been waiting for the Messiah. I'm here now. We can do everything that we need to get done. We can usher in the realm of God and all of this wonderful, great stuff, right? But he doesn't do that. And I think it's because nothing would be gained for him if he does. I could stand up here. I could tell you any sort of story that I wanted. I could stand up here and say, on my drive here this morning, I noticed that there was a horde of zombies attacking Walmart. I stopped, grabbed my glowing sword out of the cart, fought all the zombies, and I'm here now. That should be the reaction, is giggling and laughing, because that's clearly an obnoxious story. There's no way that's true. I could ascertain it's true all my life, but that doesn't make it true. Or, here's one of my favorites. No, I didn't carve the banister up. That was my sister. I would really like to say that that's a fake story, but it's not. I didn't get in trouble for it. Because I said, no, this is the truth. It wasn't. You see, people can say whatever they want is the truth, but it doesn't make them truthful. It doesn't mean that that's the truth. My mom found out eventually. I got punished. So I didn't escape wrath or judgment. But I always wondered, why didn't I, just come right out and say it? And it's, because I didn't want to get in trouble. And reality can be whatever I want it to be at times, right? So Jesus saying, yeah, I'm the guy, anyone could say they're the Messiah. And I'm sure there were probably a bunch of people running around saying, hey, I'm the Messiah, you should follow me. We're going to do this. And it wasn't the Messiah, clearly, because there's only one, that would be Jesus. No, instead, Jesus understands a simple truth. In order for you to believe I am who I really am, there's no point in telling you, because people can say whatever they want. You can choose to believe or not believe whatever you want based on what someone tells you. So instead, what he does is he acts like it. And that's what he says. He's like, I've already told you because you should see me doing all the things that I'm doing here. Even Nicodemus understands that, right? When he goes to Jesus He says, we know you're a great teacher because nobody could do the things that you do if they were not with God. And Jesus is saying, the Father and I are one. So you should understand, you should see how I'm living my life. That's the story. That's the testament. That's the truth behind the truth. It doesn't matter if I say to you, I'm this, that, or the other thing. It's how I live my life. And that should worry us a little bit. Not like a lot, but it should pause. It should give us pause and make us think about how we live our lives. That the actions of a person are what matters. You could say till you're blue in the face, you're whatever. I could stand in a garage right now and declare myself a Ferrari. Doesn't make it true. I could stand up here and I could shout, OH, and y'all could respond, IO, and everyone would laugh and giggle. I could wear my Ohio State tie and talk about all the coaches and how, Ohio State wins all the games and this, that, or the other thing. But the moment you saw me sitting on a couch wearing a Michigan hoodie, you would think I had gone insane or I was a liar. So which one's true? What's the one that the action is with? Jesus is saying, if you want to be a follower, if you want to be like me, great. Don't just say you're like me. Anyone can say they're like anything. But if you want to follow me, he says, act like it. I'm not the Messiah because I say I'm the Messiah, he says. I'm the Messiah because I act like it. Because I'm doing the things that the Messiah is supposed to do. Jesus is saying that his actions speak louder than his words ever could or will. And that's what he tells them. And it's sad because one of the things that he says in the midst of all of this is, you wouldn't believe me even if I told you. It's not that Jesus doesn't want them to be a part of his flock or his sheep. He just says those who know. They get it. They understand. They don't have to be told 1,000,000 times. They just get it intrinsically. And they get it intrinsically because they see Jesus. Now, it's a little bit harder for us. It's 2022 at this point, and, the physical body of Jesus is not here. We don't see it, right? Like, we don't see him walking around healing people and this, that, and the other thing. No, what we have is the gift of hindsight. So we have the Bible, we have historical records, and this, that, and the other thing, and it paints this picture of Jesus. And the question is, what do you do with that? That's the $1,000,000 question always. When you see Jesus, when you encounter Jesus, what you do with it is you automatically start to make choices. Some of those choices are great and they're right. Some of those choices are, not so great. And what we wind up doing is we tailor fit a Jesus to suit our own needs. A hippie Jesus, angry Jesus, warrior Jesus, healer Jesus, a whole bunch of Jesuses that we kind of create. Instead of looking for the authentic Jesus, the one whose actions and words together paint the picture as to who he is. A bigger, all-encompassing picture, not just focusing on one small aspect of who he is, but the entire picture of that. And when you do, you make a choice. And the choice you make is that I'm either going to follow this guy, not because I am told that I should, but because there is something intrinsic about him that makes me want to follow him, or he just seems like a nice guy. That's it. Those are the options. Because it's not something that you can be like half in and half out on. Okay, it's a whole or nothing thing. So how does Jesus tell people that he's the Messiah? His actions. And I get that. And it terrifies me. Because what I understand then is that by taking the mantle of Christian, by putting that title on me, it means that automatically I'm being watched. You see, the word Christian, Christ-like. We're supposed to be the Christ-likes, following Jesus, acting like Jesus. And so if I say all the right things, wonderful, great. Everyone can jive with that, and it feels good, and everyone loves Jesus, hunky-dory, and the other thing. But the minute that I don't act like it, well, I'm a hypocrite. Well, if this is what a follower of Jesus looks like and what they do, why should I even bother? And so it terrifies us. It's like, what are we supposed to do with it? Because, we're not perfect. We try. We try in our daily lives to be more and more like Jesus. And I think that's the important part here, is that we understand and know that we're works in progress. We understand and know that Christ, having no physical body on the earth right now, has the church, the big C. That's why we call the church the body of Christ. That's why you'll hear me talk about being the hands and feet of Christ, because we are to go where Christ would go and to use our hands as Christ would use his hands, because we are the signposts, the guides, the ways in the world that the people see Jesus. It's good and bad. I think it's really good because I always feel as if you give someone a title or something, they rise to that, It gives them something to aspire to be. And it's bad because people don't do it right. We live in a very materialistic culture. We live in a world where it says, it's okay, step on who you have to step on to get to the top. If you ain't first, you're last. Go for number one. You do what you need to do to ensure that you have the best life now. And that includes, sadly, getting into issues of faith, issues of religion, turning Jesus into some divine ATM machine where our PIN code is prayer and we can say the right combination and things and he's just going to shoot money out at us or something. And it's great and it's fine until it doesn't work, and then you're left with, but I did the thing I was supposed to. What's going on here? Why didn't it work? Well, intrinsically, I did something wrong. This is my fault. I screwed up. It's obviously not God. No, it's the understanding of God that needs to be corrected. Christ does give abundantly to us. That abundance that Christ gives to us is freedom, is liberation, eternal life given to us through Jesus Christ. We are not constrained by the material world. It would be wonderful. Yeah, I know exactly what my dream car is. It's not a Ferrari or a Porsche. It's a DeLorean. I am not surprised that some of you laughed at that. My dream car was and always is a DeLorean because Back to the Future. I just think they're cool, they flip up like that, and I would spend the money to make it look like Doc Brown's from the original movie. Because if I'm going to dream big, right? I don't need that. It'd be really cool, imagine driving to a Presbyterian meeting in a DeLorean. It'd be awesome, it would be really cool, but I don't need that. No, instead, I got the parent mobile, a giant van that can hold a bunch of kids. And I'm okay with that, because that's what I need. And see, it's not about what we want sometimes, it's about what we need. We don't need a whole bunch of things in the world. We don't need to have more and more and more. We don't need to be the center of the universe because, spoiler alert, we're not. It's not about me. It's not about you individually. It's about us in communion with God. That's it. That's the point of the story. So if anyone tells you, oh, you just have to pray a lot harder and you're going to get all the money and the cars and everything that you want, no. You live abundantly. You have your best life now in order to serve. God blesses Abraham. He says, I will bless you. I'm going to give you so many things, bunch of animals, bunch of money, everything else. And people stop there and they don't read the next line, which is, I will bless you to be a blessing to others. That's why we're blessed. That's why we have what we have. Because it doesn't matter if you can say, oh, I'm a Christian, I like Jesus, I'm going to go to church and sing all the songs and all that stuff. What are you doing with your life? Your life is the testament, not your words. It's not just use your words, it's use your actions as well. Yeah, use your words to tell others about Jesus and Christ's love for this world. Use your actions too, because actions speak louder than words. That's why the story in Acts is so amazing and interesting. The story in Acts, it seems like it's about Peter, right? Like we get, oh, Peter raised somebody from the dead, and he does it in a way just like how Jesus did, right? He hears someone's dead, he goes in there, shoos everyone out, raises the person from the dead, presents them, and everyone's like, it's a miracle, and a bunch of people came to believe, right? That's a Peter story, except it's not. And the reason it's not is because of Tabitha. I hold and believe that Tabitha in this story is the main character, and it's a very important distinction. She died in Joppa. Peter's not in Joppa, he's in Lydia. And people go to Peter. They're like, okay, Peter's here. Maybe he can do something. That'd be great. That'd be wonderful. They go to Peter and say, hey, our friend died. Can you please come help? So he goes there. And when he goes there, what he sees is something amazing. And it's almost enough that you can just glance over it, right? There's a disciple named Tabitha. She was devoted to good works and acts of charity. Okay, that's what a disciple's supposed to do, right? They're supposed to be devoted to good works, to charity. That's the mark of a Christian, right? Or it's supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to live our lives, right? And so Peter gets there, and what he sees is a bunch of widows. There's a bunch of widows sewing tunics and other clothing that Tabitha made. And that is what sets Tabitha apart. Because if you understand the culture and you understand why it is that in the book of James it says, religion that is pure and undefiled is this, to care for the poor, the orphan, and the widow in their distress, and to keep one unstained from the world. The poor, the orphan, and the widow. All three of those people are groups of people that are marginalized, that are pushed to the sides. A widow doesn't have a husband, and the man is the most important part in a patriarchal society, right? And so you don't have a husband, you now have less intrinsic value, you're not going to be having kids, you go over there and let everyone else live good lives, we're done with you. And that's what happened. And so then along comes Tabitha, who's like, no, they need cared for. It's not because they need cared for because, we feel bad for them. It's because they have intrinsic value as children of God. Well, how do you know that? Why do you think that? Well, because there's this guy named Jesus who I kind of follow who said, take care of those who have nothing. And Tabitha did that. Peter gets there and there's a bunch of widows crying because they know and understand that somebody loved them enough to devote their life to them. To not look at them as a burden, but to see them intrinsically as a person. And that's why they're sad. They're not sad because their meal ticket is gone. They're sad because one of the few people that actually cared about them is gone. I hope that at my funeral, there are crying people. Not because I'm a sadist or anything, but because I want to have touched lives. That's it. Even if I'm not there to see it, I would like to know that somebody is like, hey, we're going to miss him because he did a lot of cool stuff for people. Yeah, Tabitha comes back to life. That's part of the whole abundant life in Christ, right? It's like this twofold thing. Jesus gives us abundant life. We don't have to worry about the material, including death. That's great. That's on that surface level, but that's not enough for me. We got to dig a little bit deeper, because you should always try to dig a little bit deeper. Why Tabitha? Why her? There were other people that he could have brought back to life, right? But no, the gospel writer Luke goes out of his way to say Tabitha and explain why. It's not because her life had any more intrinsic value or whatever. It's because she saw Jesus and she followed Jesus. She understood the assignment. Love God, love people. That's what she did. Acts of charity, helping the poor, the orphan, the widow. That's what she did. It's not only that's what she did, that's who she was. That was intrinsic to her. Because she was changed when she knew Jesus. Not because anybody told her to, but because she saw Jesus and actually understood what it was and what it meant to be raised to new life, to have that abundant grace and love in the world. If all we do is focus on the here and now and focus on what we can get now and how God's going to bless us and only us, congratulations, you've bought snake oil from a smarmy businessman. I don't want snake oil. I don't even know what I would do with it. Give me something useful like cooking oil that I can make something with. We don't need the material. We're built to be different. We're built to give God the glory in the world. If we're just about the here and now, then there's nothing else. Nothing else matters than right here and right now. Your best life is not something that you can buy. You have your best life. Your best life is the abundant grace and love that Christ has already given you. No, rather than that, rather than trying to strive more, your best life is being kind. Just that. Being kind. And you're kind not because someone told you to be nice, not because your mom would box your ears if you were bad or something. No, you're kind because you saw Jesus' love and you were changed fundamentally by it. Amen.